Hey everybody, welcome to the video. Today's task is using Google Apps Script to create an onEdit trigger in a spreadsheet that will respond to edits made in the sheet and act as a kind of ghost assistant. It's pretty cool. We're going to look at the two different types of triggers when it comes to an onEdit event. There's the simple trigger and then there's the installable trigger. So without further delay, let's get into it. In the spreadsheet, let's open it up. We've got some buyers and we have the status of those buyers. Within the status, we have the options interested, lost interest, and undecided. The goal here, just to make it real simple, the goal here is to be able to change the status, change Bob to interested, and with the simple trigger, we want to pop in Bob's name here, what his previous status was, and what it's updated to. So in this instance right here, if Bob is interested and I were to select lost interest, it would say Bob interested, lost interest. So this is a perfect candidate for a simple trigger for our onEdit event. So let's get into the code and see what we can do. And then next we're going to evaluate an installable trigger, which will create a Google document for us. Okay, let's go to extensions, app script. And here we have our Ghost Assistant code and then our function. So here's how you create a simple trigger. All you have to do is name it a very specific function name. So for an onEdit event, to install a simple trigger on an onEdit event, we're going to type onEdit just like that, lowercase o, capital E, and then put our event object here in the arguments. Okay, so this event object has keys and key values inside of it that we're going to pull out of it. And so let's do that now. We're going to need to pull out the range that was edited, the old value, and the current value of what the edit was made, what that next value is. Here's how I would do this if I were to write this for a client. So const, and we're just going to destructure range, value, old value, equals Z, and now we have those three properties. So in the event object, we also have another key here, source. The source is the spreadsheet object, not the individual tab, but the spreadsheet object as a whole. Okay, so, but we don't need to use that in this scenario. So here we go. So we've got our range, value, and old value. We need to create an array that we're going to pop into this new status changed sheet. So we need the buyer name, previous status, and updated status. So previous status is going to be old value. Updated status is going to be value. Now buyer name, this one's a little bit more tricky to get, but let's not get too far ahead. Let's go ahead and define our array. We'll just say output. Output is an array, okay, and the first index we're going to leave blank for now because we're going to pop in the other two. So previous value is what that old value was. The current value is that. So boom, there we go, and that's good for now. Right here, what we're going to do is we're going to need to pull the name of the buyer. So we're going to use range for this. And what we're going to do is we're going to get the range that was edited, which is going to be column B. And we're going to jump backwards one column into column A and pull whatever value is right next to it to the left in the same row. So how we do this, let's define this variable buyer name. Okay, we're going to do range, and we can use a really handy method on the range object called offset. Okay, and offset wants to know how many rows down from the current range that we're dealing with, how many rows down are we going, and how many rows to the right are we going. So if we provide negative numbers for the row, that tells the machine that we want to go up. If we provide a negative value for the column, it means that we want to go left. So we don't want to change the row. So we're going to say 0 for offset, and we're going to say -1 for the column. That'll give us one jump to the left, one column to the left. All right, and then this is still a range. So we started with a range, we got an offset range. Now we need to get the value of that offset range. So get value. Okay, so that should give us everything we need. Now let's pop in the buyer name into this. Okay, perfect. So now we have our output, and that's looking really good. Let's grab the sheet that we're going to. Okay, and yeah, let's use source now, just for the heck of it, just to keep consistent. The source is the spreadsheet. So typing source is the exact same thing as this right here, get active, getting the active spreadsheet. So, and what we want to do with this spreadsheet is we want to get a specific sheet, and I love using the get name. I don't like using getting the sheet by the index. I like using the name. So what we're going to do is, let's just see the documentation for this. Spreadsheet app.getActive get sheet by name. We're going to pop in the name of the sheet where we're going. The output is status changed. Here we go, pop that in. And now this is the sheet, the destination sheet that we're going to append our output to. So now let's get rid of this. And let's bump it up to here. Uncomment that. And let's give it the name. Perfect. So now we have the destination sheet, and the last step here is to call that destination sheet dot append row, and we're going to give it the one-dimensional array of the row that we want to append. So output is our one-dimensional array. This should be all good to go. So let's give this a try. We did a speed run on this. So if you didn't follow all of that, or if you would do it differently, totally fine. So Bob has gone from lost interest to now interested. Let's see if this worked. Boom. Okay, Bob, he went from lost interest to interested. Now, let's say that Bob went to undecided. Okay, cool. So we were able to track what our people are doing, what our buyers are doing, so that we can evaluate patterns, and just in this one simple example. So we should have a ton of rows now. Awesome. All good to go. Thanks to our Ghost Assistant, we're able to put all of this together. This is awesome, and we don't have to manually do any of that. So this is just a taste of what a simple trigger can do. Now, what can an installable trigger do? This is where the magic really comes into play, because an installable trigger is really good at handling permissions and doing advanced actions within your Google Apps. Let's go ahead and create another function. First thing I'm going to do though is I don't want multiple onEdit functions firing off. So all I have to do is just change the name of this onEdit function, and it will no longer be a simple trigger that's firing off responding to events. Now that we have this in place, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put it down here. This is going to be our new onEdit function that we're going to work with, and I'm going to name it onEdit capital T trigger. What I want to do now is I want to grab, just first and foremost, I want to grab this other sheet, status documents. This is going to happen like this. We're going to have the buyer name pop in here, and then the document link of the document that was created from our onEdit trigger that we're about to create right now. Okay, so let's just change this to status documents, and we'll keep destination sheet terminology. We'll keep that the same. The output is going to be different. This time we're not going to need the old value or the value, but we are going to need a document link. So in order to do that, let's define doc as this. We're going to now call document app.create, And then let's name this the name of the buyer whose status was changed. And then inside of this document, let's set the content to just say Bob's status was changed from this to this inside of the document. The sky's the limit on what we make that document do, but for now, let's just make it do this really simple action. Okay, backtick. I love backtick. So we're going to say buyer name, status change doc. Super simple, sweet. So now doc is now a document object from document app. Now what I like to do is I like to define doc body. Nope, doc body. And I like to do that when I'm working with a Google Doc, because the body is the thing that you are actually editing when you are interacting with this in your code. So here we go. So doc body, perfect. And the link, let's define the link. And then down below, we'll append the content to this doc. Okay. Doc link equals, let's declare that bad boy. Doc link equals doc.getURL. Perfect. Add that here. Really close to being done. Right here, I like to group my actions together. My variables are grouped together, my actions are grouped together. So in that doc body, we're just going to set the text. We can do one of two things here. We can append a paragraph, which will take in a string and append a paragraph to this doc body. But what I actually like in this scenario is I don't want to do that. I want to set the text of the doc body as a whole. If we did append paragraph, there would be one blank paragraph, as if we went into a Google Doc, hit the enter key, and then put our content. I don't like that very much. I'm a little picky, but I do like this method because we're able to set the entirety of the text of the doc body just right here like this, and it takes just a simple string. So here we go, backtick, and we'll say Bob's apostrophe S was changed from old value to value, period. And then let's put those in double quotes. Okay. Let's not capitalize status. I think that's good. Now, this is not going to work. An installable trigger needs to be installed. So we need to go over to triggers. Next, we need to go to the bottom right and click add trigger. We can then select our trigger, the name of our trigger function, which can be anything you want. That's a difference between simple triggers and installable triggers. And then we go down, the event source is a spreadsheet, and the event type is going to be an onEdit. Okay, now that we have this set up, let's test it out. Let's make an edit in our code, and then we'll see what happens here. Here we go. Going to buyers. Let's say Frank is now interested. Let's pop over to status documents and see what happens. There we go. Okay, let's open up this document now. Frank's status was changed from lost interest to interested. That bugs me. Let's change that. There we go. Okay, so we know it works. I want to add one quick note here. You can check the executions for tracking what's going on with your trigger that's, you know, an installable trigger, or if it's a simple trigger. And you can see the name right here. We see that the type for this onEdit trigger is is listed as trigger, which means installable trigger. And then down here, the onEdit is a simple trigger, automatically fires when you name it that certain keyword, onEdit, which by the way is the same for onChange, onForm Submit, and onOpen with a spreadsheet. And that'll be it for this video. In the next video, I'll show you how to set up an onEdit trigger to handle edits made in multiple sheets, and for the onEdit trigger to do different things depending on what sheet the edit was made in. Before I end, as always, remember that Allen App Tools is able to handle these projects that might prove to be a little bit more of a handful, more than you signed up for. You can go to allenapptools.com and fill out the Contact Us form, and we'll get in touch with you. All right, until next time, thanks.